Whoa, we're here for a magic system episode. We haven't done one of these in like forever.
I love these.
We needed to actually get around to reading stuff that we both could talk about again.
Plus, magic isn't in a lot of sci-fi stuff. So the sci-fi stuff we've shared doesn't really count.
But today, Dresden Files.
So hi there. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about some fantasy things. Usually books. I'm the son of that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. We're glad to have you with us here today as we're going to talk Dresden Files today. Big upfront warning, this is a full spoiler type episode because we're going to dive into the magic that's used throughout the series. And you have no reason to be here if you're not already a Dresden Files fan and have read the books.
Or if you've read the books and you're not necessarily a huge fan, but like
you can still be here
you're
then.
here anyways. I mean, I'm stuck here. So
but we're not going to be policing ourselves as to, not saying something that might give something away. Our goal is not to spoil things today specifically. We're talking about magic, but stuff can come out. If you do enjoy this, don't forget to hit that like button down below, somewhere around there. And please, please, please subscribe. Zach, we've had a ton of subscribers over the past couple of months. We're just about to hit 1,500 subscribers now.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's great. So thank you for those of you who actually do it when I ask. And the rest of you, do it now. Thank you so much. So yeah, the Dresden Files, man. We've both read the entire series up to what exists. Have you gone back and read all the short
The little
stories
novella
yet?
things, short stories? No.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to.
Okay, that's fine. I feel it does enrich the story. Well, I'm not going to push you. I know you partly read the series just to be a good, dutiful son. Not that you didn't enjoy aspects of it in the end.
It takes a lot for me to want to go read little side things that are outside of the main story. If that's the case, it's because I love this world so much and I want the enrichment of it. Not because I'm trying to fill in story gaps. If I'm trying to fill in story gaps and it required this little book that doesn't count as the rest of the series, I'm probably just going to look up what's in that book.
Okay. Before we actually talk about the magic system here, and what we do in Magic System series, we break it down as to how it measures up to other types of magic systems that are out there. But before we do that, I'd like to hear what else you're reading these days, Zach. Because
you know what, I would too. Because what I'm seeing on there has me thinking things.
Okay, has you thinking things when you see the books that are around the frame.
Yeah, because I didn't know you were reading some of the things that are on here potentially.
Dude, I started Heroes Die, book 1, Axe of Cain, which you see over there.
Yeah.
And I'm like 60% already. This book is freaking awesome.
I told you.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. Toll the Hounds right beneath me. Mm-hmm. I finished 2 days ago. Finally. Only took me 9 weeks of reading it. But it was incredible. I'm going to do an episode on it later today.
Speaking of things that take us a little while to read, wild thing, I had to take a pause in where I was in the Chronicles of Amber. Uh-huh. I got through the Corwin cycle. I finished the first 5.
Well, you could just stop there.
And then decided to pause because the rest is like, it'll be fine, but it's a good pausing point.
Yeah.
So that I can go read a couple of things and then come back to it. So I'm currently reading Ninth House.
I've heard that.
It's by
Lee Bardugo.
Bardugo. I don't know how you say names.
It's on my TBR.
Same person as like the Grishaverse, Six of Crows, that stuff.
Yeah.
It's entertaining so far.
There's another. Is it tied to? There's another one. Hell something.
Hellbent or something.
Is it tied to that?
It's the sequel.
Okay.
Or rather, the Hell one is the sequel, I believe.
They're both on my TBR, fairly high up. I just learned about those last year.
It's good. It's like dark academia, magic, weird societies, and Yale.
Nice. Yale definitely has secret dark societies. We all know this.
I'm still listening to Dragonfly and Amber. It's long, and I only listen to it sometimes. Okay. But I've only got 15 hours left. It's fine. And eternally, I am reading Dead House Gates.
Well, there you go.
I'll finish that some year.
Some year. Nice. Last week, I did a work trip out to Pocatello, Idaho, which is all told about 20 hours of driving time. I listened to no audiobooks because your mother went with. And she comments afterwards, I really dinged your reading progress, didn't I? Yes, you did. But I had you, which was very nice. We had a very nice trip, but it's true. That's 20 hours of reading time I did not get that I normally would have. Oh, well. I do not regret having time with your mother. Let's see. I think that's what we can talk about then. Now I have a few little updates on what you're reading, and so do all of they. They get my updates every week when I put a weekly channel update out there. But we don't hear from you on that. So, it was good to know. Now, Dresden Files. Let's just talk about the magic in general first. What kinds of things we see. At its crux, Harry Dresden being a wizard, that kind of magic that he uses seems to have two facets to it from my perspective. One is very spell-based. I mean, he's learning incantations, spells that he can do, but they are tied to an innate ability to do magic. Not just anybody can learn the spells and start being a wizard. No, you have to be a wizard. And then you learn how to use your abilities and powers. From that knowledge, then you have the other stuff that are ways that you can channel the magic. Like you can make charms and weapons of power. You can make potions. These are all things, though, that flow from having magic and learning the various spells, incantations to channel that power into things. Does that sound right to you? That's the core wizard-based magic?
It doesn't sound horribly wrong.
Okay.
Which is to say, the arcane side of magic, wizards, Harry's side of magic, is something that, yes, has spells and stuff, but all of that is always very much emphasized. It's something to make it easier and more feasible. It is a focus. Magic is really just a harnessing of one's will on a power that just kind of exists out there.
I like that. Okay.
And everything that Harry does or people do wizard-wise starts there. There are then other shapings and other things they can do with it, which is where we're getting with the items, potions. I want to talk about potions later.
Okay.
But it starts with have it intent, keep it clear, focus it, and put the power of basically emotion into harnessing your will.
Now, it's well defined in that when Harry learns to do a certain spell, a certain magical action, he can repeat it. He can do it again and again and again, and it always does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, we expect him to throw fireballs.
Unless he's too physically tired. If he's just drained, he's not going to be able to do his magic. Because it does take something out of him. He's drawing on his own personal emotion, essence, strength to do this stuff. It's not limitless.
Now, when we talk magic, though, we do need to account and acknowledge for the fact that there's the magic of wizards, there's magical creatures just in general, and sometimes they can do some weird things.
We're going to go on to talk about that, yeah.
There's fey magic stuff. There's spiritual holy magic stuff.
Right, as pictured.
And then there's the other side of unholy magic-y stuff.
So you're talking demonic magic there?
Yeah.
So we have so many different elements of magical things, magical powers, magical abilities that happen, magical beings in the Dresden Files, for sure. I felt it was good to start with the wizards. So before we branch out to talk about those other ones and how they're played out in the series, let's talk potions, because you wanted to talk potions. That's still specifically in the wizard realm. So talk potions, Zach.
Potions are silly. Because potions are kind of like spell concentrate. You're sitting around and you put ingredients that kind of make sense, that appeal to your five senses to get the effect that you want. But they don't have to make sense. They don't have to be actually edible or potable. They just are, and then you put enough
Right.
magic and will into it, and then it's like, yeah, you got a potion.
Then
And
you
for
have a
plenty of
potion.
people, it's probably normal. Harry Dresden says, yeah, let's use those Gatorade squeeze bottles because it's funny.
You know, I think Jim Butcher, the author, agrees with you though that potions are silly because he stops using
He
potions.
doesn't use them a lot, but he does use them occasionally. And when he does use them, they're silly.
Like he did it earlier in the series, and it was really work intensive for Harry to create a potion. It was just like, are you kidding me? This is not practical. And I think Butcher went, okay, that was all right. I don't think I want to waste time working more potions in a series, so they never come up again.
It is an interesting shift in the series that it kind of starts at, hey, being a wizard is about being prepared. The more preparation you have, the more tools you have in your chest, the more things you've got ready, the better your chances. And eventually it just turns into, no, the biggest stick, if you've got the most raw power you can sling around in smart ways.
It's a great point to say how the series shifts, because early in the series, Harry spends serious time down in his lab, his sanctum, preparing for magic, creating potions, studying things, working with Little Chicago, and then about halfway through the series, that's not even a thing. Well, actually, it's not even a thing. Although it is, actually. That's the one spot that still is from his original house. But, it just, we move on. The series develops, and so does the way magic gets used. All right, so we got the wizards with so many other things. So let's talk about this guy right here first. Bob.
Monsieur Bob.
A spirit of intellect. He's
Notably,
magic.
when we say spirit, not a dead person, contrary to the fact that he is housed inside of a skull. This is a spirit from the realm, a kind of windy spiritual being that is really just a collection of so much knowledge.
I have questions about how Bob came to be, because we, of course, have a second spirit of intellect now in the series, and we know how that one came to be. And I'm sorry, that's not how Bob came to be.
It's definitely not how Bob came to be.
You're not duplicating that process. So,
no.
How did Bob come to be? We don't know that story yet. We know he's got a shady past, but knowing how he first came to be, I'd be interested in that story someday.
I'm almost curious if maybe Bob no longer knows how he came to be, because that might be a piece of himself that he has divested
expunged. So Bob is just an essence of spirit. He is a magical being.
Yeah.
But he doesn't actually, I mean, he can do magic.
Yeah.
We don't see him do a lot of magic.
The most we see is when he's not with Harry.
Right. Yeah. His kind of magic, though, isn't doing spells. It's just extending his being.
Yeah, it's largely like possession or
look, I'm a dinosaur
kind of stuff, producing physical effects.
So there's that kind. We have, and that leads me into talking about, we have a number of beings in the series that are just magical by nature, such as the Fae and all the iterations of the Fae. They all are magical. They all have some magical sense. Some of them, their magic is just being magically brutish. I beat things. Others are, doing all sorts of spells. I mean, Queen Mab and Queen Titania. I mean, they have massive, unbelievable powers that they can do.
And with those, you get into the position of, it's not just these Fae creatures, but these mantles, these Fae artifices, these positions that also bestow a certain amount of power and magic.
Which brings us right back to Harry when he gets the mantle of the Winter Knight.
And we eventually learn is kind of shit for magic purposes. Like,
it makes him very strong.
No, it doesn't. That's the thing.
It makes him feel very strong. I mean, he is very strong, sort of. It takes down his own natural inhibitions that would protect him from overdoing it and killing himself, right?
It seems so much cooler at first, and then it's just like, oh, oh, well, there's a reason why you don't have this job very long usually.
What it reminds me of, a movie I saw recently was Split.
Mhm.
Have you seen Split?
No, but I know it.
Okay. Its sequel was Glass, I think.
Yeah, and its prequel was Unbreakable.
Right. But you've got the character in Split who has various different personalities that do express, sorry, spoilers for Split, people, that do express different abilities, but one of them has superpowers. But not really. It's just he is now channeling his physical abilities to a degree, to an extreme that you should not do. And honestly, you normally can't do because your own brain would stop you from doing it, but his brain won't stop him. His brain believes he can do these things. So he's crawling up walls, he's punching through doors, but he's also, injuring himself. It's not smart.
It's like the idea of, hey, you've got super strength, but you don't have super durability.
Well, in the movie, they have some to a degree, but they can still die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Winter Night. It's an interesting one. Speaking of knights, let's jump over to our favorite knight, Michael Carpenter, the
Is he your
Knight of the
favorite knight?
Cross. I like
My
him.
favorite knight is Casino Knight.
That would definitely not be mine because I like to have money and I would lose it all at Casino Night. I'm not a good
Just
gambler.
because I gotta share this joke with you, Dad. So I definitely have worked into my D&D campaign at some point. Sir Casino, who grants boons through a casino night. He's a knight in full armor that is a dealer.
Okay.
It's so dumb.
Sir Casino. Hey, but if it's fun, it's fun. So the Knights of the Cross, Michael Carpenter, Sasha, the one who died.
Don't even remember his name.
Man, I'm sorry. It was just one book. He was cool.
It's like
Anyways,
Shiro or something.
yeah, something like that. We, of course, now have a newer Knight of the Cross who's pictured in the background of this photo, I believe. I think that's who that's supposed to be, Butters, back there.
Fair.
Their powers are spiritual powers. They're channeling the power of God. It seems magical, but it's not. It's not like they're casting spells. They're channeling a higher power.
And there are some places where it's like that isn't really seeable, and there are other places where it's like that's really obvious.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest powers that they have is like coincidence. This belief that like we will be where are most needed. God will call you there. And
Yeah, yeah.
let's just go real fun out here. They're technically an organization in power of faith because Sasha, like you mentioned, is an atheist.
Or, I mean, at least was.
He still continues to claim he's like, no, I believe in the things I believe in. God's not necessarily one of them, but I believe firmly in what I do and the power of this, and it works.
Yeah, I think he was kind of emphasizing the fact that I can acknowledge this power is real. I don't have to believe in the guy. That's kind of what he's saying, but I can't deny what I'm able to do. And I'm
And
clearly
what they
working for
did
someone.
for him.
Now it's two sides of a coin. You've got the spiritual powers, which are just the other aspect of demonic powers. Okay.
Yes.
So the spiritual powers we would claim are of the good. There are others who would say good, bad, it's all, the way you look at it. So the demonic powers are just another version of the spiritual powers.
Now we
You're
need to be
using godlike powers they're not spells necessarily.
we need to be a little bit clear in this because when we're talking about these demonic things, there are actual like demons, devils, things involved in this series, and that's not usually what we're talking about when we're talking about the other side of the holy coin.
Although we have seen an angel
My
as an
point
active
being,
player.
when we're talking the other side of the holy coin, it's that yeah, we've got angels on one side, and the other side is a lot of fallen angels, is what we usually are talking about,
Okay.
as opposed to the demons and the devils and the outsiders. But sometimes we do talk about those. It's just a different category.
Yeah, you just said the outsiders.
Uh huh.
That's a whole nother level here.
Uh huh.
that we don't know a lot about yet.
I just figured I'd just drop that one and walk away.
So we can't talk about outsider magic much other than, okay, there's a whole nother level of being called the outsiders that break all the rules. And what they can do is inexplicable. We don't understand how they do that, and it's screwing with everybody. Okay,
But back to the holy and unholy stuff. Yeah, they got their spiritual holy magic. It is a different magic and sometimes stronger than the arcane that Harry uses. However, it's not mutually exclusive. In the unholy category, we often see a lot of individuals that also possess like a fey magic or also possess the arcane magic stuff and have different abilities and things that are partially this spiritual magic and partially this other magic, and you can mix and match a bit.
Another key element of the spiritual magic that I want to point out is you don't get to use the spiritual magic like a spell user. You get to use it by acting on faith. That's how they show it. They do what they believe they're supposed to do, and the magic shows up. The spiritual power backs them up. But they don't know if it will or not. They're trusting that they're doing the right thing, and the god power will step in and see them through. The other magic users in the series, they're much more proactive. They're much more deliberate. When Harry casts a spell, he's not wondering if it's going to show up. He knows the magic is going to do what he's asking it to do. He's not always sure it'll be enough or it'll work, but he knows the magic is going to do what he's asking it to do.
Now, the point of where that is not always the case is when we start giving arcane users access to a little bit of some spiritual. So in cases of things like Hellfire, Soulfire, these are direct channelings of the spiritual magic.
Yeah. A few other magics that come to mind. We've got necromantic magic in the series.
In multiple ways.
Mm-hmm. And it's in general taboo. Don't go into necromancy. It's banned for reasons. And so of course some people use it.
A little bit next to the necromancy and we get ectomancy, and that's like maybe looked down upon a little bit, but or like thought of not even real, but it's not like bad.
But there was a whole thing behind ectomancy. Yeah, very cool. Should we talk about vampires? I mean, vampires are magical beings as well. They're not really of the Fae.
No, but there's a category of like monstrous magic.
Yeah.
That is vampires and werewolves, and we get various shape-shifting kinds of individuals.
The Nicoloshi.
You're not supposed to say their name. It gives them power.
I'm so scared.
But then there's also even other monstrous races and things that use other magics we've already talked about, such as the Bigfoots.
Yes, who are wizards, in their own right.
Or at least some of them are.
And are naturally magical beings, which enhances their ability to cast spells, to tap into the same kind of magic the wizards are using.
And we get into the fun further thing of some of these crazy monster things. Well, maybe they went and had a kid 1,000 years ago or something, and that kid isn't that crazy monster thing, but they do have some of those abilities, and it's a different thing. It gets a little gray.
And then, wow, I mean, we get to, peace talks and battleground, and we've got a Titan coming into the matter.
Yeah, it turns
Old
out
school abilities that the magic is off the charts, and
And we did talk Fae and spiritual, but God and godly pantheon stuff, it gets a little complicated because people wear different hats, and there's a little bit of like blending of lines.
I think there was a Kris Kringle reference there, if I'm hearing you right.
And more so in the same guy. So
yes, yeah. All right. Anything else we should mention about magic before we jump into rating this one?
Maybe touch a little bit more on the artifacts imbued with various magic.
The artifacts of what?
That artifacts can and are imbued with various magics, whether it's the arcane building of magic and things, but also sometimes just like historical context and connection to something important imbues power to an object It could be faith reasons of people just believe in this thing and its importance and its power. It could be something that was plucked out of the head of a literal titan or something in the past, and now it is destructive.
Mm-hmm.
But objects can innately of themselves hold power, though usually only because of what is known and thought about them.
Okay. So this is a very magical series, the Dresden Files, in many and various ways. We're going to rate it now. We've got 6 different categories we rate these on. We give it a 5-point scale, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. We make up some silly measure each time. I thought we could measure it in bobs, but I'm open to a different suggestion.
I'm down with that. It's the least spoilery option of like a fun little rating thing.
Okay, so out of 5 bobs, how many do we give to consistency of definition? So this is the degree of clearly defined rules that are consistently followed in the magic in the series. 1 to 5.
My first thought process and instinct is like it's like a 3, because I think it often tries to be consistent and at least shows that Harry is confused when something breaks the rules. Things do break the rules, and they break them regularly, or Harry finds a way to break them regularly. But we're usually confused until we figure out how, or maybe, and then sometimes we're still confused and we don't actually have an answer.
I like what you're saying there, but we consider 3 on this scale reasonable flexibility. Okay, for the purpose of the narrative. And it's not that the magic is breaking its rules, it's that as the story's written, there are things Harry doesn't know. You said he's confused and he's learning more. And that's part of the fun of it. He's not omniscient. He doesn't know everything there is about the magic around him. And so sometimes things happen that, how did that happen? And then we'll find out how that was possible too.
Plus,
so it's not set in stone from what we learned in book 1. It's flexible.
You said this was consistency category, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to potions real fast. Those don't really exist anymore. It can't be a 5.
Well, they do. We just don't like them. Okay, clarity is the next one. How well is the magic system revealed to the reader? How much do we understand it? Anywhere from clear as mud to crystal clear. Where on the spectrum?
I think a lot of it's pretty good, partially because we're in the perspective of a very intellectual thinker about it, as well as seeing him as a teacher throughout various different points, and we get the explained perspective. We don't get it all necessarily up front of the first book. By the time we're at the end, we have so much we can talk about because we know so much about these different things. There are definitely pieces that we aren't super clear, but usually it's because he doesn't have the best experience himself with it, and I would say 4.
Yeah. We don't want it to be crystal clear. It would take away some of the charm of the series, as we're still discovering new perspectives and aspects.
Some of these things, it makes sense that we don't know them too well yet because we've been riding with Harry this whole time and he doesn't know them.
Next category is power. Just how strong is the magic of this series, from as little as weak does little to godlike? And come on.
5.
Yeah, there's godlike power in this series.
Not every magic is, but magic in general, 5.
Yeah. And we're also learning, just how strong will Harry Dresden actually be?
5.
Yeah, could be. Impact. How much does magic impact this world and the story being shared?
5.
It's got to be a 5. It's all
about. If you asked me before Peace Talks and Battleground, it might be a 4, because story, yes. World, his world. At this point, 5.
I mean, up until then, there had been a definite intention to keep the magic under the radar.
There's some level of separation.
And at this point, we just blew up most of Chicago. Okay, it's out there. Okay, practical value. What good does the magic system do in the world? Little value to highly significant. Where do we put it?
I think purely based on the Knights of the Cross, this can't go any lower than a 3.
Okay, I like that.
And
honestly, someone like Harry is using magic to fight for the little guy. He truly is a defender of the weak.
Yeah, but Harry is an anomaly. especially among wizards. Most, and we get told this,
You mean like when
most
Ebenezer just
wizards
throws a
for a
meteor
long
down?
time don't really help the little guy, don't really do like practical use. It's useful for them.
There was a
But
lot of
not
collateral
everything.
damage in Battleground.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Didn't do
so,
a lot of good for the world there.
yeah, I'm in this position where I'm
Midland?
like, the power and magic itself doesn't tend to do good or bad, but rather it's strong enough that those who use it do kind of get to decide whether they're going to do good or bad.
True.
And it,
Those who choose to do bad, it usually goes bad for.
it often goes bad for the people who choose to do good too, though. So I think I'm down to stick with a 3.
Okay,
Like
I agree.
it's useful, but maybe not to help you make your toast.
The final category is means of usage. What does it take of a person to use the magic? Not all the other beings and stuff, just so like Harry. Is it nearly impractical to access this this magic? Or is it like breathing? There's our spectrum.
In large part, I'm going to put this on the lower end. I think it's pretty inaccessible.
The middle score we have says requires training, but doable. And you're saying, well, not for everybody, right?
Well, I think it's a 2.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you have the innate ability, potentially, you can get training. And if you're good enough at the innate ability and the training, you can go far enough to actually be full wizardy.
Right.
But plenty of people who have the innate ability still only get like a couple of tricks.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I'm completely with you there. I think 2 is the right call on this one. For most people, the magic is completely inaccessible. You're not going to be able to do a thing with it.
One of the more theoretically accessible magics to a person, there's only like 3 of them at a time.
True. All right, that gives us a grand total of, let's see, 7, 12,
Math.
17, 20, 22. 22 bobs.
I think is a fairly average score for our magic systems.
That might be just a little bit on the lower end, but I think we were very accurate. Very good rating, Zach.
I think this one, in terms of like how we tend to score these systems, suffers from for so long being a hidden world for very exclusive individuals. It's not suffusing every part of all of the world.
Yep. But it was a delightful magic series to discover as we read through it.
It definitely fits your flinging spells and sword and sorcery vibes a little bit while still putting you in modern day Chicago.
Yes. Yeah. And the never, never quite often, but
Never.
All right. I think that's where we can wrap on this one. This has been a fun episode. Man, I'm looking forward to more Dresden Files when it comes out, but there's no sign of anything soon. He's working on the Cinder Spire series right now, so
I'll read it when it comes out.
And you'll like it even better.
I don't know about that, but don't ask me to really be waiting on the edge of my seat for it, but I'll read it when it comes out.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you made it this far. And thanks for being here. We'll talk to you next time.